Hello, everybody. This is Ryan from my Try Running Programs, and we are into week 5 of the Hal Higdon Personal Best Marathon Training Program. And we have two, well, really three minor changes to the program this week. We have one additional easy mile of running. So instead of a 3 mile easy run, a 4 mile easy run, and another 3 mile easy run, we have a 3, a 5, and a 3 for our easy miles. We have a slightly, or our longest long run so far of 8 miles, a huge addition there of an additional mile comparative to last week. And then we have a 35-minute tempo run, which is actually a distance we've already covered using tempo runs previously, but some minor differences for this particular week in terms of pacing. And really, the other big addition would be an additional hill rep for this week. So nothing too crazy there, but it does add up to a little bit of extra mileage overall. So for this particular week, it came out for me at right around 32 and a half miles, just slightly underneath that. Took me a little more, or a little bit less, I should say, than 4.5 hours to achieve that. And I covered roughly 463 feet of vertical gain. So not a terrible amount overall. So with that being said, this week I broke it up very similarly, where I actually did the easy running first, because as I alluded to the previous week, I had been having some issues of back soreness. In fact, it was bad enough at first, and the location was that I kind of thought I had given myself a kidney stone or something along those lines. I've never had a kidney stone in the past, but that's essentially where the symptoms were lying, were in kind of the flanks of my back and sides. And so I was pretty concerned I was dealing with some type of kidney issue, and luckily that has relatively gone away. So I think it was just muscle soreness, a little too overzealous with my core routine and a little too overzealous with my lifting routine. Overall, as I've said, I'm probably 90% better at this point in time, about roughly a week and a half on from when this running took place. So with that being said, the easy miles then naturally, as you can see, were kept very, very easy. First one of the week was a 3 miler, kept it just above 9 minute pace. For my 5 miler, I kept that just under 9 minute pace, about 8:45. And then my third 3 mile easy run was kept just under 9 minute pace as well. Then I did my first major session of the week, which was 7 miles of overall tempo running, obviously naturally with some more of a big cool down to get those 7 miles. But for the 35-minute tempo session, you can see once again, very simple, easy mile to start, and then did the next 3 miles all in the high sixes, which the benefit of that is as I was coming into this particular week of training, I'm now into week 6 of the program. This week calls for a 5K time trial. So it was good to see some sustained mileage, all kind of trending faster. You could see where I went, first one slightly under 7, second one slightly faster, but still under 7. And then the third one continuously getting a little bit faster mile over mile. Then the 5th mile, because it was going uphill, I was a little bit slower, and then had a good final mile to close it out. The thing that I would say here that I was really happy with was seeing that type of pacing, given that I wasn't really feeling at my best. When you're having that muscle stiffness, especially in your back, you're always concerned, at least I am. I'm always concerned that I'm going to pull something or tear something. And so you get a little concerned about, am I doing this session too hard? But I felt really good throughout the session by and large, minus basically the warm up and cool down mile. And as you can see, kept it relatively consistent outside of 1 mile being a little bit slower, but it made sense given that that mile was technically going uphill. So really a good sustained session. In terms of the heart rate, what I was really happy to see here too was that I was able to keep it relatively consistent in that kind of 160 to 170 range as I was doing kind of the work of the session. So this felt really good overall. I didn't think it was one that, once again, is terribly fast. You can go back and watch other videos where I've run faster tempo runs in other training programs. But for where we're at right now, just in the 5th week of training, this wasn't bad to see. It did build a relative level of confidence for the overall week. Now, as we progress through the week, my goal was to follow up that tempo session after the rest day. I actually took the rest day, did the program as it was written versus just changing the days off. So I took a rest day and then went out to do my hill session and actually did not complete that particular session. This was meant to be a 5 by hill where I was actually going to go out and up this road right here called Williams Road in Salinas and do some repetitions on that and then come back around kind of my longer kind of 9 to 10 mile route that I will do. and I just didn't have it in me. And the reason being for this, I think, is twofold. One, I was still a little concerned about my back. Two, the bigger thing was my wife and I had gone on a pretty substantial hike the day before. We had both taken the Friday off together, and we were just kind of hanging out, having a good time as husband and wife. But the issue that we fell into is that we decided to go on this really beautiful hike up in the Morgan Hill area. Totally recommend it for those in the area. It's the Uvas Reservoir area. And the issue is it's a very vertical hike. You're kind of switchbacking up a mountain trail, and it just took everything out of my legs the next day without me really realizing. I haven't felt more sore, which was really funny because I've been doing all of this faster running, never felt sore after those sessions, and I felt just beat after all of that hiking, and it really took a toll on my running. So in some ways, a lesson learned, but you can see I attempted to run some of my reps a little bit faster here on Baranda Road. This is where I'm essentially going up a kind of a shorter hill, at some points getting slightly faster than 6 minutes per mile, but really you could tell this was not very good comparative to my other hill reps that I run normally over on the coastline here in California. So really just not a great session. Tried to run the second rep, and you can just see from the pacing, if I'm running 7-minute pace for a hill rep, it's got to be either a huge hill or I just don't have it that day. And to answer that question, I just didn't have it that day. So I tried to take a big rest and come back around and do some more hill reps. And so my final hill rep would have been here on Freedom Parkway. And you can see once again, the hill rep is basically in the mid sevens. And that's when I just said, okay, at this point, this isn't worth continuing. So I just stopped my watch and just kind of soft jogged back home. It was kind of live to fight another day, if you will. So really, actually, my first failed speed session of the program, not great by any stretch of the imagination to see it this early, but at least I had a reason for why it was there. It was just a mixture of leg soreness, as I reported here on Strava, and also my back just not feeling 100%. And so I think it was the right move at the time, just to take it easy, walk away from the run, and live to fight another day. So then the third most important run for the week would have been the 8-mile long run. And this was a great return after a really poor training session the day before. Came out and ran a really relatively consistent run. You can see keeping everything from around 7:45 for the fastest mile, with the slowest mile being 8:30. So that massaged out to about 8-minute pace over the entirety of the 8-mile run. And I just felt good the entire run. This was when I felt like my back had started to turn a corner and I started to feel better with running, more confident with running starting that day. And that has continued on all through this week. So I can pretty safely say I'm about 90% better, as I alluded to before. And I just feel like I'm going to continuously improve and get back to 100%. So the beauty of this run was it built up far more mental confidence that I knew this wasn't any type of serious injury. It certainly wasn't a kidney stone or anything like that. So I'm feeling really, really good overall. This was good to see that my legs could sustain a decent pace. That overall, if you even look at my heart rate, was relatively low throughout. In fact, dipped down at times, even started to improve and go down by the end of the run. It's something you usually don't see, where you would get higher and higher and higher, but then it actually dipped down. I was able to a lot of times keep it in the 130s to 140s. So that was really nice to see. It was a good sustained effort that was not terribly taxing. So that's always what you want to see with your long runs. In terms of the Runalyze data for this week, similar to the week before, it was actually an improvement by about a couple of points. So I should say really more similar to about 2 weeks ago. And so my VO2 max has continuously improved. And as I've alluded to, if we look at this chart over the last couple of weeks, you've seen a big jump up. And the simplest really way to explain this is the drop in caffeine usage. Funny enough, I have been using kind of a similar dose I was using prior to this. So I think there's also some training adaptation kicking in, but I'm trying to be smarter about my sustained caffeine usage throughout the day, keeping that more limited so I can get some better sleep. I think that's having a really good return on investment in terms of my running performance overall. And so you can see really up through this week, got it up into about roughly about 51.3 by the end of this week. And it's can obviously continue to go up now that I'm into week 6. So just want to keep seeing that number continuously improve. That's showing some good adaptation taking place. In terms of the marathon shape, if we look at this particular week, this was a nice improvement. So it now assumes that I can run the marathon about 5 seconds per mile faster at 3 hours and 7 minutes. Once again, I'm not taking this number too literally, but it's good to see that improvement. The big thing that I need to do is get more mileage right now. That's what I effectively know, is that I need to get the mileage up if I'm going to have that ability to really run a faster low 3 type marathon. So I'm not trying to get too married to this number right now, because my VO2 max might decrease once I start to add more mileage in terms of, at least on paper, right? So I have to be a little careful with this data, but at least it's improving for what I'm doing right now. So overall, once again, pretty happy with this week. I can't complain. I'm injury free. I'm feeling faster, and I'm feeling a little bit mentally more confident with my running, I guess would be the best way to put it. So hopefully you're feeling the same way with your training, and we look forward to seeing you in future videos. Take care.